Hi there, and welcome to Chimp Chat, a podcast aimed at helping you get the very best from your MailChimp account. Brought to you by those clever chimps at Chimp Answers, a MailChimp Pro partner. MailChimp email marketing is just what we do. Hello everyone, and welcome to Chimp Chats, where every week we give you the lowdown on how to get more from your email marketing and MailChimp, along with updating you on anything going on in the email marketing world which we think that you need to pay attention to. My name's Robin Adams, and I'm your host, and I'm the owner of Chimp Answers, which is a specialist MailChimp marketing agency. And today I'm joined again by our resident MailChimp Supremo, Vicky Glass. How are you doing today, Vicky?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Went to the gym this morning, and my shoulders currently feel like they're rather stiff. So fortunately, the joy of doing this is that I don't actually have to move my arms too much. Otherwise, kind of like anything above there is a problem. So we'll try and keep it down. Anyway, let's cut the chat and let's actually get to the reason the people here, and let's focus in on our question of the week. And the question of the week this week is, how do you actually get the email that you're sending opened? All right. Now, this actually is really, really important because we spend a lot of time talking about getting into the inbox, avoiding spam folder. We discussed deliverability, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And then last week, we talked about how you can actually get your email to stand out once it's been opened. But there is obviously a little step between those. When I say a little step, it's actually a very big step in the fact that once you've got it into the inbox, you want to get the email opened. Because to be quite frank, if you don't get the email opened, what was the point of sending it in the first place? It's kind of like, it's a bit redundant. The whole purpose you're sending an email is because you want someone to open it. Okay? Now, before we get too deep into the subject of how you actually get people to open your emails and the things that you can do, I think one thing that we definitely need to cover is basically how do you know that someone's opened emails? So when you're actually tracking your emails, how can you actually find out whether someone's opened an email? And in actual fact, this is becoming increasingly difficult at the moment. So, Vicky, do you want to just briefly explain traditionally how MailChimp, or to be quite frank, any system for that matter, actually knows that an email's been opened?
In a way, they put a small image in your email. They embed it usually at the end. Some people do it at the top. So it's a small 1 pixel by 1 pixel image, really small. You can't see it. And that's embedded in your email. And once you open it, then that pings a message back to go, right, this email's been opened. They view this image and the email has been opened. And that's typically how they do it, just by checking that an image is loaded in your email once you've opened it.
Exactly. So, that's how you track an email. It's how any system tracks it. But this actually has a problem because basically the first thing you've got is that sometimes that pixel doesn't, or that image doesn't get pulled from MailChimp. So it doesn't get pulled because of the fact that you'd be using an email system, say like Outlook or whatever, which doesn't upload images. Now, if it doesn't upload images, you don't know whether they've actually opened that email. So that's going to give you a problem. And then on the other side, you've got times where, and we've seen this quite a lot in our Facebook group, people come in and go, why is this person showing has opened my email 60 times? And some of them are going, woohoo, it's opened 60 times. And others go, this can't be right. But again, it's because of the fact that they're tracking the pixel. So what you actually need to understand is that every time that pixel gets approved, so for example, I use Mac and I use Mac Mail for my work email. So every time Mac Mail loads up the image of that email or that email itself in the preview window, it's going to go, oh, let's grab those images, and it's going to pull them in and again and again and again. And that's the reason why you get, 50, 60, 70 opens for some people. It's because not they're just opening the email each time, it's because they're showing the preview function. And this is why kind of like, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to how accurate an open rate is. And one of the reasons why I try and certainly, advise a lot of the people that I speak to that you can't get too bogged down in open rate. It's an indication, but it's not necessarily what I call an accurate statistic because of the reasons. And that's just today. Vicky, we talked about this the last couple of weeks. There are new developments in privacy which are going to make this even harder.
Oh, yes. It's been an interesting few weeks. I think it's been a couple of weeks now or so since it's been announced. And yes, Apple are now going to implement a system where they open everyone's email before they actually gets to the inbox. You have to opt in, I think, for this, or opt out. One of them, you have to opt out. So if you don't opt out or opt in, but you have to. I think you have to opt in. But it's going to be then they're going to tell you, oh, we're going to implement this new privacy policy. And the likelihood is most people are going to go, oh, I like this because I don't want people tracking me. So they're going to opt into this. And it means Apple will open everyone's email. If you're using Apple Mail, your email will get opened higher up before it gets to you, which means everyone using Apple Mail will just show as having opened an email. You wouldn't get to know who has actually opened your email. It will just show as many people have opened it. And yeah, it's been a hit for people that rely on open rates, let's just say.
Yeah, and it's just going to make it harder and harder. And I think certainly one of the things that, when we've been talking about it separately, is just understanding that open rates, I wouldn't say it's a false statistic, but it's certainly not really one that's as reliable, and it's going to become less reliable, and really concentrating on things like clicks and the revenue earned from revenue and other bits and pieces, which all feed through to MailChimp. It kind of like, those are what you're going to be focusing on. But having said all of that, we still need to get the open. We may not be able to accurately know whether we've got the open, and we may need to rely on things like clicks and bits and pieces, but we still need to get the email opened. Okay? So, what are the key things that you need to consider when you're writing and sending your email when it comes to getting the open? And the first thing I want to just briefly talk about is that you've got to remember what email is all about. And I often liken email to gambling. There are no absolutes. There's no you're going to win or you're going to lose. It's kind of like shades of grey. And what you need to do when you look at your sending your email, because if you've got a database, you're sending it to hundreds or thousands of people, you're not going to get every single one of them opening. Or not opening for that matter. So what you need to do is you need to look at all the things we're talking about today. There are things that are going to stack the odds in your favour. There are no absolutes. It's about things that you can control, that if you follow and do these things, you're going to, how shall we say, improve your chances of success. And that's all we can do with email marketing. It's a great tool, but there ain't any absolutes. You really need to just focus on doing good best practices to improve. So, with that in mind, Vicky, what would you say is the first thing that most people gravitate to when it comes to things that they can do to influence people opening an email?
I think it's if you try to create interest in your subject line. So pique interest by being a bit vague or just leaving something off or leave people hanging. So you use a subject line that I think is the term people you might see around is blind subject lines. So you leave people thinking, oh, what's this about? It makes them curious. So using subject lines that leave people really interested to know what actually is in the content of the email is the first thing people go to. So vague things like, oh, the dog ate my cat or something. People go, oh, whose dog and whose cat are they eating? And they'll open your email just to find out what that's all about. So that's one of the first things people naturally go for. Also, it sometimes helps to be direct as well, because if you just go to someone like, this email is about my top 5 tips on this, people will go, right, I know what that's about, and I want to read more about that email because it's told me exactly what I'm going to be getting, so I'll open that email. So sometimes being direct also works, and using merge tags in emails as well is also quite a good one. So you personalize that email. You can put their first name in there, any other data you have on them, you can put in that email subject line. That works as well. So personalizing it, and emojis are also a good one as well, because sometimes it makes it a bit less formal, so slightly informal email that helps, and it brightens up the subject line. Personally, I find anyway. Yeah.
No,
I think I went more than one point there, didn't I?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Everything you said there, kind of like from and this is one of the things I'm testing at the moment. So you've got blind subject lines and direct subject lines. So in our regular newsletter that we're sending out, I'm communicating to people and I'm saying to people, or I'm giving people the option. So half of my database is getting a blind subject line, which is, kind of like you say, not directly related to the subject matter, but is a curiosity type subject line.
Yeah.
And then the other half are just getting this video. There's a video in this email, and this is what the video says. And it's interesting to see, and this is one of the great things about MailChimp, is the fact that you can A/B test your activity. And I'm sure we'll be talking about testing in a future episode, but you want to actually make sure that you're testing some of these things, because these are the types of things that will have a big impact. Because if you can get an extra 5 or 10 percent of your database opening your email, that's going to have a knock on in every other statistic down the track in terms of the clicks, the engagement, all those bits and pieces. So you really want to focus on good things, and the subject line is important. But I'll throw this at you. How important are subject lines anyway? Because at times I think, compared to some of the things that we're just about to go into, I think subject lines kind of like, there's a little bit too much emphasis on subject lines sometimes.
Sometimes, yes, especially when people focus on it so much that they make it a misleading subject line. That is a kind of worms that really irritates me when that happens. But there is so much more that goes on in that little preview that people see. In that little, think about when your email goes into an inbox, what do they see? So you need to think about the overall, not just the subject line. Anything else on there is what you need to focus on and make it all sort of looking for cohesive, I think. So they are important, but there are a lot more that you can do to help it as well.
Exactly. And what we're going to do is, when we finish this answering this question, we'll focus on what we feel are our own top 5 of the tools that you've got available to get into the inbox. So there's subject lines, and like I said, there's lots of things you can do with subject lines, and we really would recommend, if you're not testing your subject lines, you want to be testing them regularly. Another tool that you've got, which is something that MailChimp have made a little bit easier over the last year or so, is something that is the preview text. All right, so basically, if you think of when you receive an email on your phone, usually you'll see who it's from, you'll see the subject line, and then you'll see 2 lines of text. Those 2 lines of text are essentially your preview text. Now, if you don't use MailChimp's preview text box, what MailChimp will do, well, they'll basically put the first 2 lines of your email. And it always used to really bug the hell out of me. And even now when I see it, is the bit when I look at my email box, and in the preview line, it says, view this email in browser. And I was like going, this is possibly one of the most valuable real estate you've got in someone's inbox. You've got these 2 lines. So you've got your name, the subject line, and then you've got 2 lines of text. And you're wasting those 2 lines of text on view email in browser. It's like, if I see view email in browser, I know it's a marketing email, and I'm not really going to be that interested in it probably, because they haven't paid attention. So you want to make sure that you're using preview text in all of your emails, because it's another way of getting the email opened. Remember, don't get the email opened, you're not going to get any benefit from sending it. So in terms of preview text, again, use things, you can tie preview text back to the subject line, as it were, if you're using, say, a blind subject line. Also, what you can actually do is you can balance off the direct subject, balance off. So you could show a direct subject line as the main subject line, and then a blind preview line, which is kind of like, so the first line says, open this email and watch this video, and underneath it says, and learn why, my cat's chasing my dog all the time, or whatever. So you can blend the 2 together. But again, the whole idea is you need to get some form of curiosity and get someone to open those emails. All right. So preview text is important. Right. What's the next asset that we can flex, shall we say?
So you've got the preview text, and you've also got your name, so the sending name or the sender's name, per se. So this is also quite crucial, because I'm Vicky, and if I just send an email as Vicky, there are lots of Vickies around in the world, so that's not going to tell anyone who this is and why they should open it. Why is this Vicky more important than the other Vicky that emailed me the other day? So sending name is really good to make that personalized, to make people remember who the email is from. I also build your reputation as well. So rather than just saying Vicky, you'd say Vicky from Coded Vector, or Vicky from Chimp Answers, or Vicky from add your company. Or maybe if you don't have a company name, or you think there's a more relevant thing to add there, you could add where they met you, or you could say, Vicky, you met me at the webinar, if you want to be exciting about it. But yes, Vicky and something else that will make them remember who you are. So your name, and obviously not Vicky, because not everyone's Vicky.
Now, I actually think this is much more important than kind of like subject line and preview line type, because it's your reputation. It's your kind of like, to be blunt, I always say this: you're only as good as your last email. So if I send an email to you today and you open it and you read it and it's really interesting and engaging, you go, wow, that's fantastic. And then I send you another email tomorrow. When you get that email tomorrow and you see it's from me, you're immediately going to go, oh, the email that Robin sent yesterday was really, really good. So I'm pretty confident that this is going to be a good email as well. And I think this is something that, kind of like, that this concept of you're only as good as your last email, as your reputation, is something that people forget. And that's why the actual sending name, when I look in my inbox, the first thing I look at is, I don't look at subject line and preview line. I look at who it's from, and immediately start drawing conclusions of whether I should open that email or not, purely based on the name. So you need to concentrate on building that reputation, which is your sending name, as it were, your brand, to make sure that that's going to get your email open. That's massively important in my book. Okay, so
On the
go on.
Sorry, on a quick thing I just remembered about that, actually. There are some businesses that are very formal. They probably don't want to send it from Tim, the director, or something like that. But what I've seen is they use their welcome sequence to have a mascot. So they have a mascot for the email and go, "Hi, this is going to be an email from Shark, from Sharky this week," or something.
Yeah.
So they give for the email's personality and give a sender's name and have a mascot on there. So if you're thinking, "Oh, my business is too formal, I don't want to put my name against it, I'm not a personal brand," you can still use some parts of that to augment your email. You can still have a personality outside of just the formal realm. But,
oh, definitely. Emails are personal. We've, irregularly, I'll be sending emails from our little chimp mascot. You can see up there. His name's Wendell, and I'll send a little email from him every so often, as it were. But yeah, email is still a personal platform. So you need to try and make sure that personality comes in. Cool. So a couple more things that we've got that we can actually control, and both are actually related to time. So what's the first one that we've got, Vicky?
So when it comes to time, it's about when you send your email. So you have to look at your audience. This is where it gets a bit, it can be a bit awkward if you don't have an audience yet. So you have to test this and try sending in the morning, sending in the evening or afternoon. Try and see, like, look at your open rates at that time, or your click rates if open rates are not becoming a thing anymore. But see how much engagement you get from your email depending on when you send it. And from then on, you'll have data to go, right, mornings are always better, so I'm going to send to people in the morning. Obviously, it could be afternoon, depending on your target audience. So if your target audience are mums, you might not want to in the morning because they're doing a school run. You might want to go, right, the evening, they're sat down, they've put the kids to bed, they're going to read my emails now. So when you send your email, it's very important for opening.
Definitely. And obviously, again, as we said, this is one of those things that you can and should test. And it's almost, again, I see questions in the Facebook group along the lines of, when's the best time to send an email? And it's like, well, there isn't a best time that applies to everyone. Everyone's business is different. If you're in a business to business, like you're saying, compared to a business to consumer, so, speaking to mums, me as a business person, I'm looking at my emails at different times compared to the time that, kind of like a mum who's not interested in that type of thing. So you need to test and you need to learn about your audience. And one of the things that MailChimp can do as well, and this is quite cool, is that it will look at your previous campaigns if you're on a paid account, and it will actually send those emails based on when it believes is the best time for you to actually send. So you then don't even have to kind of like check it. It will look at your previous campaigns, look at when they've opened, and will then basically do it for you. So, it does the heavy lifting for you. So yeah, time matters. And time just doesn't matter from a kind of like from a linear concept, as it were, kind of like the time of day or night and a particular day. It also matters kind of like when you send it based on what has happened prior to that email. So let me kind of like explain. So say someone has gone to your website and signed up for your emails. Okay. They are expecting an email from you. They've just signed up. So if you send them an email straight away after they've signed up, they are more likely to open it because they've just taken an action and you're responding to that action. This is why welcome emails are so important. Welcome emails traditionally get 7 times as many clicks and 4 times as many opens as any other email that you're going to send. And on that basis, The reason, well, kind of when you look at it, why is that? It's because of the fact it's associated in most instances with someone taking an action. So, one of the things I recommend to a lot of people is when you've got a sign up form, don't just have a sign up form and then when they complete it, it's got a little text saying you are subscribed. When they've clicked on the sign up form and they click subscribe or submit or whatever, they get sent to a thank you page. And in the thank you page, it actually says, look out for an email for us shortly to welcome you to our business, our brand, or whatever. And it's like, well, you're telling them to expect an email. That's going to mean they're more likely to open it. So when we talk about time, it's not just about time as in time of day. It's about time as in where your relationship with your customer is and where they are on a customer pathway, as it were. And if they're expecting an email because they've just done something, they are more likely to open it. It's like, when I order something from Amazon, they send me an email straight away saying, here's your order confirmed. I'm expecting that email. I open it, check, yep, that's fine. That email is automatically more likely to be opened because it's expected. And I think that is something that a lot of people miss out on, is the whole concept of understanding that if they can tie it to a specific action that the person who signed up has taken, you're much more likely to get the open. Okay, so with all that in mind, those are kind of like the tools that you've got available fundamentally. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go through it. We're going to each we're going to rank those things in order of which we think is the most important from bottom to top. Okay, so from the subject line, preview line, name stroke reputation, time of send or reason for sending, which of those is the one that you think is the least important, Vicky? The number 5.
Oh, that's a harsh one. The least important. I might go preview line,
Yeah. I'm
I
I'm
think.
I'm I'm I'm
Or
torn. I've
reason
got
for
four. I've
sending.
got 4 and 5.
Mm.
It's very close for me. I've got time. I've got preview line, but for me, the 5th one is actually time of send. I think at times we get a bit too bogged down with time of send. But again, that's just personal view, as it were. I think kind of like I agree. Preview. So for me, time of send is the 5th, and then preview line for me is definitely the number 4, the 4th most important. So where are you on the 4th?
Fourth, I would have gone. I'm torn between time of send and reason for sending because sometimes for transactional emails, I might not open. I know it's an invoice or a receipt. I mean, I don't need to open that email. But yes, I'm torn between those two. So I might
Yeah.
go for time of
Okay.
send.
So we've gone. So your worst is preview line, then time of send, and then reason for sending. I guess is
Hmm.
your third. I'm
Yeah,
I'm pretty much exactly the same. Although, like I said, for me, time of send and preview line, those are slightly less
yeah.
important. So that leaves us with 2 left. So you've got subject line and name protection. No, say so. What goes into number 2 for you, Vicky?
Name and reputation is number 2 for me.
And subject line number 1.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm the other way.
Oh.
That's it. Yeah, I think subject lines are important, but I think maybe I'm just rebelling because I've seen too many marketing articles saying 101 best email subject lines, and it's like, yeah, but the fact of the matter is you can have the best subject line in the world, but if the last 5 emails you send to someone are a complete useless waste of time, it doesn't matter how good that subject line is. You're going to look at the
Mhm.
name and go, oh, their emails are really, really boring. I'm not interested anymore, as it were. So I don't know. I mean, this is the joy of this: is we've all got our own views,
Yes.
and hopefully from this discussion you got a good feel for kind of like where you're going on. So, any last thoughts on getting an email open, Vicky?
For me, we're speaking of things that are pet peeves. Misleading subject lines are the worst. It's just the worst thing that you could ever do. So not like I don't mind curiosity. So leaving someone hanging, that's fine. But it's when people put things like colon or forward colon, implying that they're replying to an email that you've sent. That is irritating. I open and unsubscribe like on purpose, and sometimes I go back and go, no. I got an email the other week that had urgent in the title. It wasn't urgent. It was a promotional email. I went, I reacted a bit over the top, but I did tell them in no in no uncertain terms that the marketing email was not urgent. So if you're going to go for trying to pique people's interest, that's fine, but do not mislead people in your subject line. because
Couldn't
as long as
agree.
when you get opened, you'll get unsubscribes, and you don't want that. So
Couldn't agree more. That yeah, it's kind of like, it's like getting a. It's like me sending you a box which has got on the outside lots of cake inside, and then you open it up and there's no cake. Now you're not going to be happy about that, are you?
oh no, no.
So yes, you got to remember when you're sending an email, you are literally almost sending someone a package, and the label on the outside is getting them to open that package. If what's inside the package doesn't correspond to what's on the outside, people are going to be disappointed. They're going to feel let down, and they're more likely to unsubscribe and disengage. So yeah, couldn't agree more. I think for me, I always just come back to you're only as good as your last email, and I think that you've got to remember that this matters. So yes, subject line is important. I was being a bit glib earlier, but it does matter. It's going to get people to open it, and your reputation is going to get people to actually open it. In terms of their experience. And like I said, going back to the first point, I jokingly say it's like a tree in the forest. If it falls and no one was there to hear it, did it actually make a sound? Well, it's the same with email. If you send an email and no one opens it, did you actually send the email in the first place? It's kind of like, it's that equivalent. So please, 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 when you're looking at your emails, don't I remember speaking to a copywriter recently, and he said he spends as much time drafting and working out what the subject line is going to be for his email as he actually does on what goes on in the email. Because he understands that if the subject line is not good, the email isn't going to get opened. And as a consequence, he's not going to be able to generate anything for it. So I think, again, at times it's very easy for us to just open up an email and start writing the content and not really think about the subject line as much as we should do. So, I've been a little bit down on subject lines, but I'm going to pull it back now and go, actually, subject lines are really important. Yes, because your reputation is based on previous emails. For a specific email that you're sending today, your reputation's already set. But you can control the subject line, you can control the preview text, and if you're not leveraging those at the most, then you know what? You are going to be missing out on opportunities in getting your emails opened. And as you say, if you get more emails open, so if you get, if your click rate is, kind of like 20% of the people who open your emails, and you get another, 10, 15, 20 people opening your emails, that's another 4 or 5 people who are going to be clicking and going through to your thing, which is going to increase the potential for people to take the next step in your journey. So please don't underestimate the open. It really matters a lot. And it's a small step, but if you follow these things that we've talked about today, they're going to give you a slightly better chance of getting your emails opened. And that's all you can do. Stack the odds in your favor, follow these principles, and your emails are more likely to be opened. Cool. So as we are live, I will always ask the question to see if anyone is out there who's actually listening or watching at the moment. If there are any questions that you've got about MailChimp that you want to get answered, we'll keep an eye in the chat window to see if anything comes through. But in the meantime, I just want to quickly focus on a question that we regularly get asked in the Facebook group, which came through from Randy earlier this week. And he basically was having some issue with credit card. He wanted to change his credit card or whatever, but fundamentally he wanted to get in touch with MailChimp. And I just thought it'd be briefly a good idea just to cover off when someone wants to get in touch with MailChimp, how do they actually do it, or can they do it? So what do you reckon, Vicky? What are the things that kind of like, if someone says to you, I need to speak to MailChimp, what do you say to them?
First, I'll ask them, do you have a paid or free account? And also it depends on the issue. So if it's to do with billing or an account issue, you go a different way to if it's just a general, I've got questions about how something works. So if it's something billing, then there's a billing email address you can use. If you've got account issues, which no one else can help with really, there's an account recovery email you can use as well. And there's a compliance one as well. If it's a specific type of issue where they've shut down your account, for example. So there are email addresses you can use for specific issues like billing and account issues. But if you're in a free account, you will have no recourse to any help through those channels. But they are on social media and they respond quite well actually on Twitter. Yeah. Definitely, I know that one. So they're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you contact them via one of those routes, you're more likely to get a response and your issues will be resolved that way. So even if you're on a free plan, there's still hope for you.
Definitely. And this is the key thing, is that it's if you're on a paid account, obviously, and you're logged into your account, use the chat.
Yeah.
If you can't get into your account or they've got rest specific questions, there's 3 email addresses. We've just put the link into the feed. We've got a little article on the Chimp Answers website. So if you go to chimpanswers.com, contacting -MailChimp, it will tell you all of these options. So there's a billing at MailChimp.com. There's an account recovery at MailChimp.com. There's a compliance at MailChimp.com. So you can email those things. But if you're on a free account, the quickest and probably best way of getting hold of MailChimp is to, how shall I say, delicately kick up a fuss on social media or talk to
Yes.
basically reach out on social media. Because
Yeah.
remember, MailChimp they don't want unhappy people. They don't want unhappy customers. So they want to help you. So if you do go to those social media channels and say, look, I'm having trouble logging in or whatever, then usually someone will come back to you relatively quickly and point you in the right direction. So I know we answered and gave the link to Randy in the actual Facebook group when he was there. But if any of you out there are trying to get hold of MailChimp directly, that's probably the best route in terms of going through is either just go direct or, like I said, go and visit our chimpanswers.com contacting MailChimp webpage, and that'll have all the best ways that you can go through to get through to MailChimp. Cool. Right. So let's have a look at what's going on in the world of email and anything that we've read in the last week, because we always like to keep ourselves up to date on what's going on. So, Vicky, I know we're all banging on about Apple and the iOS update, and I've seen an article, and I'll share this link to anyone. But have you seen or read anything this week that you thought would be worthwhile pointing out to someone, and a good link that we can put into the show notes so that people can actually see these, learn a little bit more?
I did get something in an email. I'll have to dig it out, but it was about, because it's halfway through the year, and usually at the beginning of the year, people do these predictions of where they think email marketing is going to go this year. What's the new trend for 2021? And one of those was about using video in emails to personalize emails, and so that was one of the things I read today, was just trying to review how that's been going on throughout the year. And I must say, I do find it quite interesting in trying to use video in an email, because obviously, unless you have a small user base, you can't really send in personal videos to every person on your list. So there's still an element of bulk marketing in there. But yes, it's quite interesting, a different way to relate to people, to sort of reach people that's not just text. And there are lots of people that like video, and we're doing one now, so people are going to watch it. So yes, if you're thinking of new ways of engaging your list, look into video marketing. There are lots of tools out there that integrate with MailChimp that let you do that. I think there's Bonjura and another one that they use. So that's what I read this week.
Yeah, interesting. That's really interesting. You'll have to send that link over to me, because that sounds really quite interesting, actually. And yeah, I mean, we know. I mean, all right. There's always going to be a challenge of putting videos into emails, because most email programs won't play the video natively. Yeah. What you're actually doing is you're putting an image in the video in the email, which when they click on it will take them through to a particular video. But yeah, I think personalized videos, where obviously, a lot of us are familiar, say, with personalized imagery in an email. So you get an email and you get a ticket image on the front, and it says, here's your ticket, and then uses a merge tag to substitute their first name in. Actually doing that within an animation or for a video, that's going to be really powerful. And that's obviously going to be something that's going to, kind of like, call out. So yeah, that's definitely a trend that's going to be something. And like I said, there at some point in the future, email programs may actually get to the point where you can actually play videos in emails, which will be really interesting to see as well. So definitely something to look at. For me, I am getting bogged down in Apple, as it were, and just kind of like, it's one of those things, because it's such a fundamental into the marketplace, and I just find it really interesting, all the various discussions. And obviously, you're always going to find, so I found a particular article that was recommended to me, which was talking about, kind of like giving a very measured view of email marketing and how email marketing is potentially going to change, and why this actually is kind of like almost a shake-up call for the email marketing industry as a whole. So we obviously mentioned previously Apple coming in, basically tracking opens is going to be nigh on impossible through Apple from what I can tell. And they're even saying there's a possibility that Google will actually do the same thing as well, in terms of if you're using a Gmail business account, again, you're going to have trouble tracking that information through. And we've already mentioned, previously that open rates can be a little bit unreliable when it comes to how, the information that you're getting from them. But this article was talking about how this is, kind of like it's an opportunity for marketers to actually reset and start focusing on results, start focusing on the click-throughs, the traffic that email drives, and obviously focusing on the revenue that those emails, if you're in e-commerce, those revenue that they're actually driving. And it was just, I think it was a nice, interesting overview of again, lots of marketers jumping up and down and going, whoa, the sky's falling in, we can't do email marketing anymore. And then suddenly with a little bit more of a measured approach going, all right, okay, let's, it's not making our life easy, but for those people who actually know what they're doing and actually understand it, there are lots of opportunities that people should actually take, lots of opportunities to continue to do and use email marketing. And email marketing is still an incredibly powerful and effective tool. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be here chatting about it. So just bear that in mind. Things ain't going to get changed, okay? So, wrapping up. So, Vicky, any last thoughts on today's chat about getting the open, as it were? So, one thing that if there's one thing nugget that you want people to go away and think about, what was it?
It would be I was going to say subject lines, but I feel like we've harped on about that for so long now.
It's important.
But yeah, it would be to think about your subject lines, but not from your point of view, but from your audience's point of view. What will get them opening? And just think about when you're emailing a friend, you don't go, hi, or you don't go, here is my top 5 tips on this. You change it a bit and make it relatable. So think about the subject line, just give it some thought. And if it helps, write your email first, and then you might get ideas for your subject line from that.
Definitely, that's a great tip, that writing your email first and then going back and doing the subject line.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did once, though, which was write my email, put TBA in the subject line, and then forget to actually change it and send it. But you want to know the funny thing? I had
got
the best.
Opens.
It got opens. It was one of the best open rate emails that I ever saw. So I joke. This is where probably my kind of like my view of subject lines might be slightly coloured in the fact that I literally put TBA, as in to be arranged down the line, wrote the email, got distracted, came back and I can send that email now. Sent it, and it had a fantastic open rate. So, but obviously people were kind of like curious against TBA. That's a strange subject line, as it were.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure everyone's seen those emails that have come through when someone's actually made a mistake and sent an email that's not fully written or we all do those from time to time. Human error, as it were. But I think
insert subject line here. Here's another one.
Totally. So I think, if you actually want to, joking apart, if you actually did that, it'd be really interesting to test that. And actually, I think the one thing I would suggest that people go away from, if there was one thing they would do to go away, is to test. We're talking here. The fact of the matter is that whether you use blind subject lines or direct subject lines and different preview texts and other bits of all the things we talked about are all things that you can test. Okay. Now we've already said that said that open rates can be a bit misleading, but generally speaking, if you compare 2 or 3 specific things, you know what? You're likely to get some insight into your audience and what they're going to do to actually get the open rate. So there's one thing I'd love you all to take away from this is make sure that when you're writing your emails, especially if you're doing broadcast campaigns, it's slightly hard to do it with automations. But if you're just doing your regular weekly, monthly newsletters, as it were, just spend a couple of months, and every time you send that campaign, don't just send a normal campaign, send an A/B test campaign, because the information that you'll get back from it will be very, very valuable, and it will improve your marketing down the track. Okay? Yeah. Brilliant. So, thanks as ever for your contributions, Vicky. Lovely to see you again, and I'll see if I can persuade you to come back next week. I know that cake always works as a bribe, doesn't it? Always. And everyone remember that you can always catch up on previous episodes of this on Facebook, on YouTube, or on whatever platform you get your podcasts from. They're all going to be there, previous episodes. Please go and tap into them. There's lots of really, really useful stuff. This is the 5th one now, so we've got like nearly 3 hours worth of content, which is really, really good quality stuff. So go and check that as well. And we're not stopping there. We'll be back next week. We're going to talk about one of my favourite subjects. A concept that I came up with a couple of years ago and now I use all the time, and that's the concept of email zombies. And we're going to talk about what an email zombie is, why they're a problem, and what you need to do with them moving forward. And my view has actually changed over the last few months in terms of what you do with your zombies. So if you've been on one of my trainings previously where I've talked about it, then please tune in, because slightly different viewpoint now. I've learned a little bit more about the impact of them. So please make sure you tune in for that. But for now, thanks for watching or listening wherever you are. We'll catch up with you again next time, and always remember that always be chimping. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.